Hi, I'm David from Playmint. Other people here from Playmint. I guess we're the games guys. Like, we've made lots of video games. I'm pretty simple. I like making video games that people enjoy playing, that they like to spend money on, and that's how my world works. So that, you know, I guess we're representing that part of the games industry. That's some of the other people that are here. Talking a little bit about what we've done previously, what we're doing now, what we're going to do in the future. So, is it clicking? Yeah, okay. So the first game that we made was a game called The Crypt, and that was a game that ran on Ethereum and was for the Lootverse. This is what it looked like. And it was a pretty simple, what I call a proof of concept, really, which is like, can we build a game that is about people that own the Loot NFT collaborating together and raiding our dungeons? And it was, you know, we didn't really know what we were doing, and it was, you know, borderline insanity trying to run a game directly on Ethereum. Nonetheless, that's what we did, and it worked pretty well, actually. But we wanted to do something a bit more, and a bit more of a game. So we started working on a game called Dawn Seekers, which is an on-chain MMO. And, you know, in retrospect, jumping from a really, really simple game, like a simple dungeon raiding game, why not make an MMO next? Was probably a big jump. Anyway, so this is the game that we built. And this was a screenshot taken from the end of last year. And it was going pretty well, but it was one of those projects where a release always seemed like 4 months away. And the game was like, it was getting too big. And in itself, that's not a problem, but there's two things, I think, that where we decided we'd take us a wrong turn. One is that we were always felt some distance away from actually trying it out on people and figuring out if we were going to have product market fit, like, do people enjoy playing the game? And the second thing was, like, I don't think that we did a good job of really saying why being on-chain was interesting. And so, you know, all things combined, toward the end of last year, we decided, you know, this is getting away from us a little bit. I think we need to still build an MMO, but let's pull it back in and do something a bit different. So for the last 4 months from Christmas, we've been working on a game called Downstream. And Downstream is, here's a bit of concept art for it. Now, it looks very different from Dawn Seekers, I'll grant you that, but in its belly, it sort of has a lot of the same code, a lot of the same ideas that we've learned from building that. This is what it looks like. It runs in browser, built in Unity with a backend on EVM. And it's not always going to be blue like this, but we really made a point of stripping it back because, you know, making those nice graphics you saw on Dawn Seeker was tying us up in knots sometimes and wasn't all that important. That's not the cool thing about what we were building. It wasn't fancy graphics. It was, you know, something else. And we really tried to we felt like a really interesting thing about building an on-chain game was this point of composability. And what it means to us is the idea that people in the community can write contracts that extend what the game is. To us, that's a really cool idea, something the games industry hasn't seen before, the idea that the game evolves not by, you know, for years, it's I make the game, you consume the game. Here, this is something different, which is like I set up the world, but then we all sort of create this game together. And I think we also ask ourselves, what does that mean in practice? Like, how do I, as somebody in the community, create something that shows up in game? So we actually, and again, this is just a screenshot I took yesterday. So when you're creating a building in the game, then the game looks and sees what smart contracts have been deployed. This is all permissionless, not a permission system. And it just looks at the things that are available and allows you to build whatever has been deployed, if that makes sense. So I want to talk a little bit about what I mean by composability, and I'll give an example. Now, the point of composability is, I don't know what people are going to build, and that's the cool thing, right? I think if I could tell you exactly what people are going to build, then that would be just live operating a game. That's not interesting. So I sort of give examples of things that we think people might build, but the point is we don't know. But anyway, I use this to talk about how the system works. So imagine You've got player A exploring the east of the map, and he runs into a dragon. The dragon is holding a lot of gold, so he wants to defeat the dragon, but he's only got a wooden sword, so he can't defeat the dragon. Meanwhile, player B is exploring the west of the map, finds an iron deposit, and thinks, you know, what I could do is I could make swords out of this iron here. The way that he'd make swords out of it is not by, you know, we don't have the concept of a factory or crafting in game. Player B can build a smart contract that says, I take 1,000 iron and 10 wood, and that's going to make a sword, or what I call as a sword. And then deploy it, and then the game picks up on that, and they can create a factory in the game that takes iron and wood and makes swords. And now the game has swords in it, not because we created swords, but because player B created swords. Realizes there's an opportunity to sell swords to these dudes on the east of the map here trying to defeat a dragon. Also realizes that, you know, if he goes and sells swords to this guy on this side, who's defending the factory? And, you know, besides, I need somebody collecting iron to make the sword, you get it. Anyway, so it says, I tell you what, recruit some other people, says, look, let's share the profits of selling swords. In fact, I'm going to build that into a smart contract so it's trustless. So that itself can be a smart contract. Then can go over to this side of the map, can sell swords, which is also a smart contract that defines, you know, what the price is for swords and how that works, again, sort of trustlessly in a smart contract. And sure enough, the player A buys the sword, the dudes get paid, and the dragon dies. There you go. But, you know, to me, what's exciting about that is not, you know, guy makes swords and sells swords and defeats dragons. We've seen that in video games for a long time. The cool part is that none of that stuff was built by us. That was built by people playing the game. And that's, you know, possible with the version of the game that we've created already. So we think that's pretty cool. Other things that I can imagine people building, you can imagine that people in the clan would have access to storage depots on the map where things can be stored, but you only have access to them if you have the NFT that shows you that you're part of that clan. Maybe it's a road network, so we have this concept of that you can make things that allow you to travel faster, but maybe you only get to use those if you're part of the clan. I can imagine there's bounties. If you go and kill this dragon for me, then you can be part of our clan. AMMs, there's an opportunity between clans to trade, so you can, in fact, we built an AMM. But the point of this, all these things are built through smart contracts, or can be built with smart contracts. A good question to ask is, well, can't I just turn silver into gold? Like, can't I just create a factory that makes swords of 1 million damage, and then the game is sort of broken because you can just build whatever you want? And there is a piece of design work to figure out how do you allow people to build whatever they want, but without breaking the game. And our solution for that is, let's imagine that a deposit of 100 iron. The iron contains, and I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but the iron contains 100 attack atoms. And so when you come to build a sword out of it, then it inherits the atoms of the iron. So you can't build a sword of 200 attack. It comes from the resources in the game. And therefore, we're controlling what's in the world because the procedural generation that figures out where the iron is and where the wood is and distribution of atoms dictates what ends up, sort of limits what can be built in the game in a gameplay-friendly way, I suppose. So that's our digital physics in our world, or what I describe as digital physics. To deploy a smart contract is just two things, a little bit of JavaScript. The JavaScript describes how it shows up in our interface. So you can put anything you want. It's just really a bit of HTML and JavaScript. So our analytics person put in a pie chart that shows where players are on the map. It's a pretty flexible system. And then the Solidity has the logic itself. And they sort of got wrapped together as part of our deploy script. just tell you where we are in terms of a timeline. We're doing an internal playtest next month, and then we have an external playtest halfway through July at ECC. The point of that external playtest is mostly to make sure that other builders can deploy smart contracts, understand how they work, show up in game properly. You know, we don't want just open the floodgates of people playing the game. It's important for us to test this aspect first, the composability part, because that's what differentiates it from other games. Other things that are going on at Playmint, I suppose, yeah. I don't know anything about our indexer, I'm afraid, but we are. I'm not the guy to ask about that. But yeah, we've built our own engine to achieve this. Our stack is, OP stack on Sepolia Ethereum test network for the time being, with, I think, Celestia for data availability. There aren't MetaMask pop-ups. We use session keys so that, you know, despite everything being on chain, the player isn't seeing a lot of pop-ups. And there's no gas request either, because the game has its own sequencer built in. We have a monetization system that I think works well. I think, you know, as I said, we're sort of more traditional game guys, and monetization is an important part of building video games. So we have some ideas how that works. And finally, we've done some work on client-side proofs. We found that there was quite a few occasions where we wanted a piece of complexity that blockchain wasn't good at running for us. So we built a system that moved that processing client-side, build it into a proof, and just have that proof verified on chain, which has sort of opened up the possibilities in terms of what we can design. That's us. That's what we're doing. Come and ask me some more about that over the course of the next 2 days.